This is Allegedly in Alberta, powered by Streamlabs Talk Studio, focusing on politics, persuasion, and the pursuit of power.
And like we said, when we go back to the start of the program, when we showed you that document, when you go onto the government website, none of the documents have been updated, and the timeline is the results are still under review. So if there is a provincial police force, if they've got something in place, it hasn't been announced. It's not legal. But all the steps towards it are already put into place, starting with Jason Kenney, Ron Orr. Why is Ron Orr so important? Because Ron Orr is one of Danielle Smith's holders on from the Wild Rose Party. So when she was leader of the Wild Rose, Ron Orr was an MLA. So back to the timeline, of course, they're talking about, well, we can do all these things for the First Nations people and the Indigenous communities because right now the RCMP aren't protecting the Indigenous communities, according to the government. I'm not speaking for the Indigenous communities. That's up to them to decide that. Just like a lot of other things, it doesn't seem like the government was negotiating or making these decisions in good faith. The Alberta Native News, the Treaty 6 First Nations criticized a report to replace the RCMP with the Alberta Police Force. Well, if this is such a good idea and the Indigenous communities are all supporting it, why are they not happy with this? It says that their public consultations, in-person meetings in 2022, the in-person meetings weren't with the public, they were just with the local police services and the commissions. So the big claim of why they're going with the provincial police force is the fact that the RCMP are transient. That, oh, well, you don't have the same RCMP officers, that they can't build the rapport with the communities because they don't stay in the communities long enough. They're looking at that point, it was 366 million, may take up to 6 years to complete. So very low estimates on what the cost was going to be. And the current model predicts the transition could increase the amount of police officers from 4,030 to 4,189, or a 3.8% increase. But that's based on the 366 million number that Madhu, the justice minister at the time, was presenting. And said, at the end of the day, I'm confident that it would be the same amount or lower than what we currently spend on RCMP, but as a province, we do have a responsibility beyond the monetary implications to defend and pursue our province's best interest. While the challenges are not insignificant, we believe that a Made in Alberta Provincial Police Service is worth serious consideration. So what does that mean is unclear to First Nation reservations within the province under the jurisdiction of the RCMP. On November 2nd, the Confederacy of the Treaty 6 First Nations released a scathing response to the report's release. The whole report was commissioned and paid for by the UCP without any discussion with First Nations in Alberta, said Grand Chief Greg Desjardins of the Confederacy. When the study was announced last year, the chiefs questioned the role of the report and its relation to the First Nations. If there's going to be a different police force, the Confederacy of Treaty 6 First Nations want to reestablish our own fully equipped Treaty 6 force that will work with the nations within Treaty 6 territory. Our chiefs have already rejected the rollout of RAPID, Rural Alberta Provincial Integrated Defense. Our chiefs will not allow sheriffs, commercial vehicle enforcement, and fish and wildlife officers to come onto our federal observed lands, and that includes an Alberta Provincial Police Enforcement, said the Grand Chief. Alberta government has yet to make a decision regarding the possible transition, with Mr. Madhu claiming his department will consult with First Nations, rural communities, crime watch groups, victim services, and others before any decisions have been made. And again, the consultations have happened. We're seeing this. We talked to all these people. Tens of thousands of Albertans were consulted. I'm not seeing a lot of consultation. All we're seeing is a lot of sound bites, a lot of reporting, a lot of, well, we haven't decided yet, but if we do, it's a really good idea and we should do it. So when we're looking at where they go from there, slightly after the Treaty 6 First Nations report came out, there was another report that was provided by an online survey. 70% of Albertans against the provincial police force. So 70% opposed replacing the Alberta RCMP, says National Police Federation. Results of an online survey shows 80% of Albertans remain satisfied with the RCMP policing, even as the UCP government pushes for a provincial police force, says the union representing the RCMP. National Police Federation said a recent insight survey of 1,221 Albertans conducted October 27th to November 4th revealed provincial police force does not help at all. Albertans couldn't be less interested in this proposal despite repeated attempts by Premier then Jason Kenney, now Danielle Smith, and others to make a case for a smaller, prohibitively costly, and untested provincial police service, said Brian Sauvé, Federation president, in a statement. And the provincial government maintains no extra expense would be incurred in making the switch to the Alberta Police Force, but experts are claiming it's going to be in the billions. The findings are there. They're looking at pay structure, and at the time, Premier Ed Stelmach signed a 20-year extension with the RCMP. So to get out of that, it's going to cost the provincial government a good amount of money. So when we're looking at that, why are these things so important right now in 2025? Because we haven't heard anything in the media, like outside of there's potential of the police force. Danielle Smith talks about how good the police force is. None of the government websites are showing. They're just showing engagement. They're not showing anything in regards to what this police force could be and what it entails. And the interesting thing is the fact that Bill 11 came up. And we could go through Bill 11 from point to point, but we're not going to do that. We always tell people, like, all these documents can be found on the King's Printer, Alberta King's Printer orders in council. So we're not just pulling stats out of the sky or anything like that. Lots of amendments to the Police Act. So here's the ones that really stood out for us. So amendments to Section 1. By adding the following after clause. Independent agency police service means a police service established under Part 3-2. Oversight board means the independent agency police service oversight board established under Section 33.8. In Clause K, striking out or at the end of the subclause, is a member of an independent agency police service. Oversight board, police service, oversight board. Adding oversight board after commissions. So a lot of documentation, a lot of additional wording added to the end of commissions to an oversight board. Well, what the heck is an oversight board? Like, you have a justice minister, you have the police commissions. Like, what is going on here? Like, why is there this big thing about an oversight board? Well, let's kick it over to August 28th, 2024, when this order in council, signed off by Lieutenant Governor Lacani, Lieutenant Governor in Council appoints Brendan Miller as a member of the Law Enforcement Review Board for a term to expire on August 27th, 2027. Okay, that's, yeah, whatever. Someone's added to a board. That's not a big deal. Like, you see the order in council, like, those things happen all the time. Why is this so important? Well, the importance of that, if you go and Google Mr. Brendan Miller, why does that name sound so familiar? Well, it's quite simple here. When you Google Brendan Miller and Alberta, he is the special counsel for Foster LLP, but he's also the lawyer who represented the Freedom Convoy organizers and is now appointed to the Provincial Police Review Board. So the lawyer for the Freedom Convoy is going to be part of the overseeing of the police board, and the former police chief that was non-transparent and other actions while police chief in Edmonton is now responsible for the safety and the laws in the province. But what are they responsible for? So the Alberta Police Review Board, what does this do? Why is this police board an important aspect now? Because you've got your commissions, you've got your all these different things. Why do we need a police board? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. Well, it doesn't make sense unless you look at what is coming down the pipe starting on March 1st. So all these changes to Bill 11, all these changes to the Police Act, they're all coming into effect. They all got passed. They all had the royal assent. They all got everything done in November of last year. And if we go and look at this, and this is something that really doesn't make sense to me, but November 27th, the Lieutenant Governor Council orders that a proclamation issued proclaiming Section 3C of the Police Amendment Act 2022 in force on March 1st, 2025. Police Act comes into effect. The Police Governance Ministerial Regulation. And this is your police overseeing the police. So the purpose, the following persons are prescribed members of the Provincial Police Advisory Board. 2 additional representation from 1 or more First Nations, 2 representatives from the Association of Rural Municipalities of Alberta, 2 representatives from the Association of Alberta Municipalities, 1 representation located in any of the 4 Royal Canadian Mounted Police Districts in Alberta who's not a member of the RCMP. Any additional members, so as long as the total number of members of the Provincial Police Advisory Board does not exceed 15 members. All members appointed to Municipal Policing Committee must pass an enhanced security check. The appointment of a member to a Municipal Policing Committee may not be revoked by Council except for cause. If a person who is a member of the Council is also appointed as a member of the Municipal Policing Committee, this person's appointment to the Municipal Policing Committee terminates on the person ceasing to be a member of the Council. As the purpose of the Regional Policing Committee, the Regional Policing Committee shall consist of at least 1 representative member from each municipality, Municipal Policing Committee instead of Regional Policing Committee. For the purpose of Section 28.042 of the Act, the Minister may approve the Council of a municipality described in the section establishing a Municipal Policing Committee instead of a Regional Policing Committee, consisting of not fewer than 3 members, not more than 7 members appointed by the Council. At the coming into force of Sections 3E, 16, 19, 46A, 47B of the Police Amendment Act 2022, which again comes into full effect March 1st. We have all the changes. We have all these things. We have discussions of, oh, it's going to be easy. We can just have sheriffs do this sort of thing. But there's no official announcement of a provincial police force. But everything is in play. Everything has been put into place with the perception that there's a provincial police force. I'm not going to give you a personal experience. So in July of 2024, when I was walking Curry, the park, which is with the ball diamonds, it also backs into the campground. We saw no less than 12 drive through the park towards the campground and to the back road, which leads to the Federal Agriculture Center. I don't know about you, but in a community of less than 15,000 people, I don't think I've seen 15 vehicles all at once. I was part of the Lacombe Athletic Park Association when we hosted Gord Bamford's Canada Day at Emmy Global Athletic Park. And we had 12,000 people there. And we had police service from Lacombe. We had RCMP from Red Deer, Black Falls, Ponoka. And there wasn't 15 cruisers or 12,000 people in one location. So why would there be 15 cruisers in a park, all driving the same way? Another interesting fact, so I take our kid to club in Red Deer, and so we drive through Black Falls and into Red Deer. And those days, I see more sheriff vehicles, more peace officers than I see RCMP officers in Black Falls and in Red Deer, on the highways or in town. In Lacombe, when I take our kid to school and we're coming back or just traveling around Lacombe, I'm lucky to see outside of the resource officers in the schools, I'm lucky to see one Lacombe cruiser in town. I see multiple peace officers or sheriff vehicles, but Lacombe is a municipal police force, and I can only see one Lacombe police officer. But there's multiple peace officers and multiple sheriff vehicles. But we don't have a provincial police force yet, right? That's right. Premier Daniel Smith has not come out and made it official. Minister Mike Ellis has not come out and made it official. But just because it's not official doesn't mean it's not there. March 1st is going to be the tell when they come out on March 1st and the overseeing body led by the guy who was the lawyer for the Freedom Convoy overseeing the police in the province. RCMP, provincial police, local police, you name it. That's where we're at. It's getting interesting here. The latest one that we've come across. So Lacombe had a police chief, longtime police chief that had been working in Lacombe for years. He's recently announced his retirement. They recently announced his replacement, and it's a former police officer from Lethbridge. Well, the interesting thing is that former police officer, who's now the chief of police of Lacombe, number one, he's originally from Lacombe, so they're claiming it is like a coming home story. We're going to look into this a little more, but when we're looking through the minutes of the police commission in Lacombe, going to 2021, 2022, and 2023, are committee members, all local or voted in. But in 2024, something interesting comes about. In 2024, there was an additional member added to the board, and it was a provincial appointed advisor to the Lacombe Police Commission. That provincial advisor is former Lacombe Mayor Steve Christie, longtime Conservative member, longtime Conservative supporter. And Steve Christie presents the commission knowing that they have to replace the outgoing chief that can they send a offer to the person they hadn't named yet, who we find out is, again, a former staff sergeant in Lethbridge. Just interesting about that staff sergeant, he's a core member of the downtown cleanup committee and was part of the homeless encampment raids in Lethbridge last year. And that's who's going to be the chief of police for Lacombe. And on that group in Lethbridge was also Middleton Hope, councillor and UCP candidate for Lethbridge, who was with part of the Lethbridge Police Service and worked directly with the current incoming chief of police for Lacombe. So we had Madu and Orr visiting Lacombe, lots of consultation with Lacombe. Lacombe is the only center in between Calgary and Edmonton that has a municipal police force. Everything else is protected and served by the RCMP. So there's the information. Do with it as you will. We'll look into more on that police side. We'll look into the health. We've been in contact with various reporters and stuff. And as you saw in the opening, the great turnout at Minister Lagrange's office for the protest, that we were at the very end of that protest. Great to meet some of the members of the protest, including Brad from PI Alberta. And speaking of Public Interest Alberta, they've got a conference coming up March 27th, 2025. It's going to take place at Barnett House in Edmonton. And you can get your tickets at pialberta.org/conference-2025. So add it into the show notes afterwards. But if you are interested, Brad and the group at Public Interest Alberta are doing great things. He led the charge in Red Deer outside Lagrange's office, and then he headed right up to Edmonton to join the crew up at the Ledge.
This has been Allegedly in Alberta.
MH Care alleges recent reporting linking the company, millions of taxpayer dollars, the UCP government, and free hockey tickets is unfair and defamatory.
I wouldn't have put anything out there that I wasn't confident was true.
But the story Pike told on his Breakdown podcast has him in legal trouble.
I need your help because I'm being sued for $6 million.
The following message has been authorized by Alberta Accountability Alliance, abpolica@gmail.com.